You're standing in the appliance aisle, scrolling through endless options, and the thought that keeps popping up is, do I really need to drop a couple $1,000s on a fridge that might not fit my life? That hesitation is real, especially when the price tag is high and the promises are glossy. You don't want to end up with a sleek front that looks great, but leaves you scrambling for freezer space or dealing with a gadget that spends more time in the app than actually keeping food fresh. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. And I'm about to walk through the bits that matter after the box is opened. First off, the LG 36-inch CounterDepth Max Smart French Door Refrigerator is positioned as a kitchen showstopper. Its CounterDepth design means it lines up with your cabinets, shaving off a few inches compared to a standard full-depth model. In a modestly sized kitchen, that can make a noticeable difference. You'll actually be able to pull the fridge out a touch without hitting the wall, and the overall silhouette stays clean. For anyone who's already cramped for countertop real estate, this is the kind of visual relief you notice the moment you close the door. Inside, the 26 cuft capacity is broken down into a 16.9 cuft refrigerator compartment and the rest dedicated to the freezer. The layout feels intentionally organized. The crisper drawers sit low enough to keep produce within easy reach. The door shelves hold the usual condiments, and the middle shelf can accommodate taller bottles without forcing you to shuffle items. If you're a household of 2 to 3 people who do most of your grocery shopping weekly, that space feels generous enough to keep leftovers, a couple of trays of frozen meals, and a decent stash of fresh veggies without the need for a second fridge. The real buzz around this model is the dual ice makers and the external ice sandwater dispenser. Having both a cubed ice and a nugget-style ice maker means you can serve cocktails, fill up a pitcher for a family dinner, or just grab a quick ice cube without opening the freezer. In practice, the dual system works well if you actually use the ice regularly. The water line is a standard inch connection, and the dispenser feels solid, not flimsy. However, if you rarely fill a pitcher and mostly rely on bottled water, those extra ice makers become more of a maintenance headache than a perk. The dispenser can occasionally jam if the freezer temperature isn't perfectly calibrated, and troubleshooting that from the kitchen counter isn't exactly fun. SmartThinQ and the built-in Wi-Fi add a layer of modern convenience. From your phone, you can adjust temperature zones, get a notification if the door is left open, and even run a diagnostic check. For tech-savvy users, that remote control feels like a natural extension of a smart home ecosystem. You can lower the freezer temp right before you head home from work, or receive an alert that the ice maker is low on water. The reality, though, is that the app can be a bit sluggish on older phones, and you'll need a reliable home network for it to stay responsive. If your Wi-Fi is spotty in the kitchen, you might find yourself staring at a frozen screen more often than you'd like. Temperature consistency is handled by LG's SmartCooling system paired with MultiAir flow. In day-to-day use, the fridge does a decent job of keeping a steady temperature across shelves, which is useful if you store both dairy and meat in the same zone. The airflow vents are unobtrusive, and you won't notice cold drafts every time you open the door. That said, the freezer compartment runs a little warmer than you might expect from a dedicated freezer, which is something to keep in mind if you store large cuts of meat or bulk frozen foods. The lower temperature can be nudged down a few degrees via the app, but you'll also hear the compressor cycle more often, which adds a subtle hum to the kitchen. One of the most common reasons people return or regret this model is the trade-off between sleek design and actual storage flexibility. Because the fridge is counter depth, the internal shelves are a bit shorter than those in a standard depth unit. Tall items like full-size soda bottles or large party trays often need to be placed on the door or rearranged each time you restock. If your grocery list includes a lot of bulk items, you may find yourself compromising on how you organize the interior. Conversely, if you primarily shop for fresh produce, small containers, and pre-portioned meals, the layout works quite comfortably. Now, let's talk numbers. The price point sits above many traditional French door models that lack the smart features and counter-depth profile. With a rating hovering around 2.4 out of 5 from a handful of reviewers, there's an undercurrent of disappointment that you can't ignore. While we don't have specific complaint details, a low aggregate rating often signals issues like reliability hiccups, service frustrations, or unmet expectations around the advertised smart capabilities. If you're a risk-averse buyer who prefers a proven workhorse over a gadget-laden fridge,